Or Reynosa, one of the most scary cities in all of Mexico.
Reynosa. I was like, we could go on and on.
Biden is this interesting character because he does know a lot, as you say, and yet he also has this tendency, what happened when he was vice president, of thinking, oh, okay, buddy, we're going to do this, okay, president of whatever country, glad handing, and thought that they would do what they were supposed to do. And I don't know if it's naivete or what, but hopefully some know the lesson. Some have learned the lesson. The question is whether they can get through to Biden on that. There's several questions about kind of what kinds of grassroots organizations can really help here, what schools can do, both in the U.S. In terms of helping refugees and descendants settle and get over trauma, and then what the different grassroots organizations can do in the region. And I think that's going to be a big focal point for the Biden people going ahead. We'll see. But do any of you have any thoughts about that?
Right now, what the Biden administration is doing is that they're actually funding nonprofit organizations that are being then given the care and housing of these children. But we reported on the nonprofit Southwest Key that was run by Juan Sanchez, who was getting paid $1.5 million to do this. And so it's just a very dicey situation where you have nonprofits that are saying that they're caring for the children. But let's just say Juan Sanchez, who runs Southwest Key, that just got refunded in the millions and millions of dollars to house these children. He actually calls himself a humanitarian and kind of like a Latino, Che Guevara in his view. But he was the one who actually drove by an empty Walmart and looked at it and said, gee, what if we convert that into a place where we can house children? So that's at the level where we're at right now. And the normalization of like, oh, well, sure, we'll house them in a Walmart. That's the consequence of the dehumanization that Carlos and I have been talking about, that's been going on for decades upon decades upon decades upon decades in our US media.
I can say, at least in my area, there are a lot of organizations that are doing a lot of work on the ground, both in Tijuana and in San Diego, to try to help families, individuals, asylum seekers, whether it's giving legal advice, and I've heard, attorneys in Tijuana who are doing these consults or trying to represent people or help them understand how to represent themselves going through these different things, even talking about, running safe houses for people who are in danger in Tijuana. And on the US side, we have a nonprofit and groups of nonprofits who are working to receive the people who do manage to get through and get released. And when we talk about what the Biden administration is doing, I think one of the things too is that it's very hard to predict what's going to happen to somebody if they choose to cross, whether they're going to be expelled now or released or put in a detention center. But for the people who do get released, there are organizations who are trying to help those folks get to their families and friends around the country. I think from what I've heard from other places, we have a pretty strong system for that here in San Diego, and it's maybe more just beginning to grow in some of the other places. But just to add that in of what I'm seeing here.